So it is Wednesday, the 1st of June 2022. Welcome to the £100 special focus meeting on a Wednesday. Today we are delighted to welcome Rebecca A as our speaker. Rebecca is from Leon C in the UK and came to OA at the start of the pandemic in March 2020. She found the solution in the Big Book of AA after years of struggling with food. She's grateful to be working the steps one day at a time and sharing some strength, experience and hope with us today. Take it away, Rebecca.
Oh, thank you so much, Harriet, for your service. I'm Rebecca A, compulsive overeater. Really grateful to be here today and see your faces. I'm filled with gratitude to be sharing at this meeting. It's always such a warm meeting, and you know, I really love a speaker meeting. So it's kind of like you've got to pay it forward. And yeah, I'm just delighted today that my higher power made it so that I can have some experience, strength and hope to share. And that is, for me, beyond belief. Just a quick glance up at the clock to know where I am. I came to OA, I guess it was just about 2.5 years ago. And I was struggling a lot. I was 31 and my weight over my kind of 20s had just sort of slowly started ballooning. And, to the point where I was out of ideas. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't stay on any kind of regime long enough for it to work. Being early 30s, I should have been healthier and weller and more able to do things, and I wasn't. So it was some of that physical pain that brought me into these rooms. But I think also it was a lot of unmanageability just in the way that my life was. So I was lucky enough to have a partner and a relationship, but it was very delicate. And living life on tenterhooks, I had some friends, but it's probably a nightmare to be around me because I was so wrapped up in what I understand now is selfishness, where things are all about me and how I'm perceived and what kind of people think of me and what I'm in control of and why aren't I in control of, that kind of selfishness. Which was dogging my life and making it miserable and heavy and kind of lonely and separate and quite sad. I understand now, having worked the steps, that, it's that sense of separation and loneliness and separation from this sense of being okay. That was my big problem. That's my problem. Just before I got on the meeting, I just opened up the Big Book and I was like, okay, what will I share on? What will be good to kind of look at? And at the beginning of the Big Book, I think it's page 45, and it's the beginning of We Agnostics. It says, lack of power, that was our dilemma. We had to find a power by which we could live, and it had to be a power greater than ourselves, obviously. But where and how were we to find this power? And that was my problem. Yeah, I didn't have the power to be the person I wanted to be in the world, and that pain was devastating. I lived a smaller life than maybe I could have, and that was devastating. And that led me always back into the food. I wasn't physically well, and that was devastating. I didn't have the power to be physically well. I didn't have the power to not be binging my brains out. I didn't have the power to, if I managed to yo-yo diet my way into a smaller body, it was not for long. It was for like a second, and then I would lose that. And towards the end, I wasn't even able to do that. I remember distinctly, my sister is 2.5 years older than me, and we're really close. And she was getting married, and I was her main bridesmaid, maid of honor. And, and I just wanted to be well, and I wanted to be present, and I wanted to look good, and I didn't want to let anybody down. So I was trying to kind of follow this scheme and follow this thing. And I just ballooned. The dress that I had kind of got and said, okay, this is what I'm going to wear, I didn't even fit into it. And coming into these rooms, I'd hear this kind of story time and time again, you know. So I knew when I got here that I was home. You know, I knew that people were like me. And to hear that people were like me, and now they were well, now they were peaceful, now their relationships were calmer places you'd want to be, and now they were healthy in their body, you know, they were normal. Now when summer comes round, they're not really like, oh my gosh, the summer, I've got to expose my body, I've got to wear different clothes, it's going to be awkward because I'm going to be all covered up and everyone's going to be showing flesh, or it's going to be sweaty because I was always just so sweaty. I'm still quite sweaty. You know, rubbing between my legs, chafing, that kind of thing. Summer was a nightmare, and winter was as well, you know, finding things that were warm enough to cover me, you know, that was just kind of normal stuff. Yeah, at the beginning of the pandemic, I guess, I realized that like being in a lockdown, you know, and having that kind of low level anxiety and sometimes quite high anxiety, being separated from people and just having the food, just being at home with the food, I knew I was staring down a barrel, you know, and that was enough for me to kind of take action. I didn't know what the outcome was going to be. I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure, but kind of the alternative was looking pretty dire. Luckily for me, I guess I did have a hope that it might work, because my partner had been in another fellowship for several years. But, you know, I'm such a slow learner that it took years for me to realize that, oh, maybe I could benefit from some of this. You know, I saw it working in his life. But like, you know, I took that stance of, oh, that's good for you. I'm glad that that works for you. You know, but, you know, I'm well. And, you know, luckily things didn't get like that for me. Little did I realize that, you know, probably he's the long suffering Al-Anon with me, you know. But yeah, you know, he found recovery through the big book. So yeah, I had a hope that maybe it might work. And, you know, the other night I was listening to another speaker, a great speaker in OA, and he was saying, you know, one of the reasons why it's so useful to kind of look at the big book for the steps and for recovery, and to look towards like AA and things like that, is because, I don't know, they made it okay to take my food seriously, my problem with food very seriously. If I thought about my problem with food like a problem with drink or a problem with drugs, cocaine, you know, it's deadly serious. And so is this. This is deadly serious. And the only reason why I was just obese and still functioning was just because I was young, you know, but give it like 10 more years and it might not have been that way, you know. This is deadly and it's progressive. And even though I'm well today, because I've worked these steps and because I found access to a higher power, that doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, it's not fatal and that my disease hasn't progressed, because it progresses every single day. So yeah, I came into program, and what I did was, I heard people just like me, and I became willing to do whatever they did, and I started taking suggestions. I found a sponsor, someone willing to work with me. She was kind, she was gentle, she took time, and we just worked the steps. We read the big book, we did step work together. She helped me identify foods. I had to put those down. It was very, you know, very painful, you know. Like many people, I did cry when I realized the things I wasn't going to have on my birthday, at Christmas, at different events. it was very anxiety inducing to kind of think about what I'm going to do in social situations or when I eat at a restaurant. But the more step work I did and the more dependent on the higher power I became, I realized that, the alternative was death for me. It was just to be unwell and to be sick and not grow. So I had to just suck it up. I had to suck up the changes, and it was painful. But that.
Okay.
Oh, thank you so much. That pain became less and less the more I got a kind of spiritual awakening. What else did I do? Yeah, I became teachable and I did what I was told, I think since being a kid, I've always resisted discipline, just normal. I'm a youngest of 7 and, I have an artistic temperament and I don't know, just discipline, that sucks. Coming in and working the steps is like kind of just reevaluating my relationship with discipline because, these steps are hard, however, they're so freeing and I wouldn't live a different way. I just wouldn't. Too dangerous, too scary, too alone, too kind of small. And now my life is big, so reassessing that relationship with discipline, because this has taught me how to kind of adult and kind of how to be kind to myself and how to have self-care. When I talk about discipline, I mean like things like I get up an hour earlier than I used to every day to do prayer and meditation, and to kind of ground with my higher power. And that idea would really have kind of repelled me before. But I know that like today is very nourishing, and it's what I need to do. Or for instance, doing service, or reaching out to fellows, reaching out to newcomers, working with sponsees. These are things that, they're a must. And I would have repelled against anything I must do, or things like planning my food, asking what's in this, or traveling around with like cups or, just being vigilant around my food. I would have found that really abhorrent. Today I know that that's very, very kind thing for me to do because there's some things that I can't eat and I can't tolerate, and that's okay. It's just like, if I was allergic to peanuts, but like my problem is that I really, really love peanuts and I'm allergic to peanuts. I don't actually like peanuts, but just for an example, but yeah. Okay, so what is life like for me today? Since coming into the program, I tried to write down the numbers before the meeting because I'm not very good at maths. But yeah, like I've lost about £100, so that's like 7 stone. My top weight was maybe about £250, so maybe like 115 kilograms. I don't know for sure because I didn't like to weigh myself. I didn't keep scales in the house. I just couldn't, so I'm not that sure, but something like that. My kind of weight that I landed on and stayed at for, I was that weight for about a year, was about £100 less than that. At the moment, my weight is a little bit higher because I'm 22 weeks pregnant, which is amazing. Physically, my higher power restored me to health and to kind of sanity, which was incredible, and I didn't think it would happen, and then it did, my life, day-to-day life today is kind of where I work these steps throughout. I try my best to do it. I don't do it perfectly, but I try. When I get up in the morning, that's the first prayer that I say, that God, I'm powerless. I'm powerless over food. I'm powerless over my weight. I'm powerless over my body image. I'm powerless over trying to control everything. And yeah, my life has become unmanageable. I need you. I need help. Something really important that I had to do during the step work was, kind of also redefining the relationship with the higher power. I knew that. Thank you so much, Jan. I knew that I couldn't do this by myself. So I had to find the power that would help me to do this. And I had to drop things that weren't working. I had to drop other people's conception of a higher power. I had to get really deep into kind of, well, what do I need my higher power to be for me, to do for me? For some people it's principles. For some people it's like a kind of named deity. But like, it kind of doesn't matter. It's just about what it is for me. And today, with my step 11, I get to be like a kid in a candy store, and I get to have a practice that is ever changing and evolving and nourishing and helps me to connect. Because like I said at the beginning, it's like this lack of connection that, even though I came from quite a big family, I think I always felt alone. I think I always felt separate. And I think that hunger is really the thing that like has been driving all of my unmanageability. So today to have that connection is the most important thing in my life. As well as kind of being of maximum service. And it's not just in program, it's like to people in my life, it's in my job, it's in my community. And those things are scary because I'm an isolator and I'm scared of people, and learning that sometimes being of service is allowing myself to be loved. Like coming to this program, I have so many friends and people who kind of consider me a friend. I didn't have that before. And it's hard to kind of, that's hard for an isolator. But learning to be a friend is a service. Learning that things aren't always about you is a service. Learning that I'm a gift. That's incredible. And that means I can be of service. Often I hear, and often with my sponsees, when they get to 12, they're really scared and nervous about service, but it's that realization that, I'm a gift and I'm worthy and I have something to share, and that I don't have to be all up in my insecurities. I can be useful, even if it's to just someone for a day, or, for a phone call, or for 5 minutes of a phone call, just whatever. I could probably go on forever and ever talking about different stuff. But I did dig out the 11th step prayer. So I guess I'll close on that. I'm grateful to be well today. And to the newcomer, I just say, just keep coming back, and, that you're worthy of having recovery, and you're worthy, just deeply worthy. And that when you realize that, and realize that all what we do to stay well is just because we're worthy of being well, we're worthy of being of use to our higher power and use to each other, you will get well. And it's incredible. And not to be afraid of these steps in the big book, because it's just about how can we get access to power, because we need it, right? I need it. I definitely need it. Okay, so Lord, make me a channel of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is error, help me sow the truth. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. Lord, grant that I may seek rather to comfort than be comforted, to understand than to be understood, to love than to be loved. For it is by self-forgetting that one finds. It is by forgiveness that one is forgiven, and it is by dying that one awakens to eternal life. Thank you so much.
Oh, Rebecca, thank you so much for sharing the gift of yourself.